Well, you've joined me today at the Shimano Experience Centre on the newly built lake to talk to you about method feeder. I'm having a great day catching lovely F1s, small F1s like this, small carp. It's a fantastic way of catching fish, as we all know, across Europe on commercials, whether they're small or large. It's such an effective way of catching fish. So let me run you through my approach. So the method feeder, what is it all about exactly? Well, as we all know, it's so effective and so simple, and the reason behind that is because when you get a bite on the method feeder, it's a fish in the mouth, because we're generally using quite a short hook length. The whole principle behind it is we're creating a really nice tight table of feed on the bottom, hook baits in the middle of it, and you're forcing the fish to intercept the bait on that small table of food, which in the process means you're going to get a bite far quicker because there's less choice for the fish, rather than creating a massive bed of feed everywhere and hoping they pick your hook bait up. It's so effective. And it's not necessarily a case of where we are today, where we've got an island to chuck to across to the other bank. We could be fishing a method feeder down the margins or just underarming it in the open water. It works everywhere. And of course, as we all know, when you come to the big open water commercials or reservoirs where you're targeting big bream, it's also equally effective. So let me run you through the setup for today, what I'm using. When it comes to actually this style of commercial, we've got an island in front of us. We only want to fish like 22 metres to the island. You don't need a long rod, you need quite a short rod. There's a few reasons behind that. Obviously, the shorter the rod, the softer the action, and that couples with generally the size of the fish that you catch on these small commercials. F1s, small match carp, and a small soft rod marries perfectly with those size of fish, because generally that allows you to fish a smaller hook length and a smaller hook, which means you're going to get more bite, but by using a softer rod you're going to actually pull out of less fish, so you're hopefully going to have a great day's fishing and put more fish in the net. I'm using the AERO X7 today in the 9-foot version. Now it's an awesome rod, really progressive parabolic action all the way through, which means minimal hook pulls. And also on the top end of the rod, I'm using the softest quiver tip we've got, and that's really important. That's to cushion all that fish movement as fish are attacking the bait on the feeder, and less chance of actually the feeder moving down the shelf, which in turn means your bait's going to stay in place for longer until you get a proper bite. I'm using the Stradic 4000 reel, awesome reel, great torque on the reel. When it comes to feeder fishing, you want a reel with power, and that's exactly why I'm using this tool. Great, really nice smooth drag as well. So especially with F1s that seem to kind of like take the bait very quickly, and you seem to hook them in the mouth, just in the lip, you want a very responsive drag system. So as soon as they decide to have a little bit of a run, the drag reacts instantly, and that means you're going to get less hook pulls. Down to the business end, I'm using a flatbed method feeder, 30 gram. I'm fishing against the island, and generally when I fish against the islands in the shallow water, I always like to favour the ground bait. So I'm using green swim stim, marine halibut as the mix around my feeder, with a few micro pellets as well mixed into it. And that's where the flatbed method feeder really comes into it, because when that settles on the bottom, you're creating a lovely nice table of feed, and ground bait clings really well to a flatbed method feeder, yet at the same time it releases reasonably quickly. So that's the main reason why I use a flatbed. This is a 30 gram, and the reason why I want to use a minimum weight of 30 grams is because I'm fishing on a contour, and the last thing I want is that feeder to be moving down the shelf as fish are nudging the feeder trying to get at the bait. Always use a heavier feeder rather than a light feeder. You'll catch more and bigger fish. Down to the hook length, I'm using a 4-inch hook length, a 16 LWG to a speedy washter. Nice simple setup, but really effective. And it's quite a strong hook length as well, so it allows me to target all sizes of fish. As you can see, really nice short hook length, which means as soon as that fish sucks in that bait, the line straightens up and it sets the hook in the mouth. It's such an effective way of catching fish. So let me just quickly show you how to actually load the feeder up. So as you can see, I've got my bait, whether I'm using pellets, micro pellets, ground bait and pellets, whatever I'm using for this style of fishing, once I've got my mix right, I want it to be consistent throughout the whole duration of the day. So by just putting it in a tub like this ensures it maintains its consistency. So let me quickly show you how to actually load the feeder up. So all I'm doing is putting a very small thin layer of ground bait at the base of the mould, then placing my hook bait on top and then filling it up. This ensures that once I've actually compressed the bait all in the mould like this, the hook bait is just under the surface of the feeder. So when I cast it out, the hook bait is one of the first particles that will be released from the feeder, which means the fish, in a way, you're forcing them, you're agitating them to take your hook bait first, which means you're going to get a bite far quicker. So let's get back out and try and catch another fish. Here we are, fishing straight away. Now, what I was going to actually demonstrate was using, the reason why I'm using an ultra soft quiver tip, but hopefully we'll do it next cast. I'm catching one of these quite steady now, and that's simply because I've built my peg up. All right, I've lost it. Start again. So I've just cast it out now and I'm waiting for a bite. Now the beauty about using an ultra soft quiver tip, as you can see, it cushions all the movement from fish feeding around the feeder, which keeps that feeder in place, which is so important. I'm fishing up to an island, I want to maintain my feeder in the correct depth of water until I get a bite. If I use a tip, there we go, that's a fish on. If I use a tip that's too stiff, there's a very good chance that that feeder could have gone down the actual shelf to the wrong depth, and the fish want to feed in that shallow water during the summertime. As you can also see, by using a nice soft quiver tip, actually complements the action of the rod. And this is only a small F1, and by using the softest possible rod you can get away with for the fish that you're targeting, means you're going to get far less hook pulls, especially at this point here where the fish are under your feet. We're only catching small F1s, but if you catch them consistently, you can end up with a great net of fish and a fantastic day's fishing. So hopefully we'll land this little beauty. There we go. Not a big fish by any means, but great sport, really enjoyable. So hopefully with the tips I've given you, you'll be able to go out and put them to use and catch loads of fish.